making a video for a Twitter mutual about Earthquake and Samurai Showdown. So I started out with Galford here, so we're gonna go into Dojo, and I'm just gonna say if I can whip together a quick and dirty overview of the character, some thoughts. Not try to make it too long. Don't want you to like sludge through it or anything, but I want to make sure I hit the what I feel are the high points, at least in getting started with him. So, quick overview of his game plan. It's pretty obvious to a lot of people who've seen Earthquake and played the game, but a lot of space control. He has big normals, these big heavies. You know, there's big long low, and so he can control a lot of screen. See, he has these big, larger than life normals because he's this huge mountain of a man. So a lot of his strengths again, the screen control, being able just to keep people out, having those long range buttons. But his weaknesses end up being that he doesn't have a lot of strong ways to get the life lead versus a strong opponent because his chip options are unsafe on block inherently. And if he wants to take care of a overly defensive opponent, he has to go for overheads or this command grab. Which once he has to get that close, his risk factor goes up by quite a bit. And then if he loses the life lead, it's hard for him to just crack somebody open who's diligent and patient enough. So it's just it's the duality of Earthquake, so to speak. So getting started, again, I've already kind of went over the heavy normals. You know, you got your basically half screen low, this big jump button. But one thing you need to know about the heavy buttons is the jump heavy in particular has a dead zone on it. So just because it's really good doesn't mean you can always just use it. So if the opponent gets close to you, they know when it's gonna hit them or not. You see, and if you have to jump back to use it, and they're able to defend, and then you realize you're ultimately giving up space. So a lot of Earthquakes will start going, okay, you know, I can't hit them here, so I'm gonna jump back, and don't realize that until it's too late that they've been pushed to the corner because the opponent doesn't want to get hit and they're just walking them down. And if you want to try to engage on them to make them scared of it, you got to take the risk. So a lot of times with Earthquake, there's a lot of power in being able to hold your ground and be that wall. And so you have some lower risk normals that are not as long, but they do have their uses. Like this is a pretty quick poke as far as Earthquake's arsenal goes. Then it doesn't have the same recovery as Jump H, but it can be deflected if you use it too much. But this is one of the kind of hidden jewels in this kit is the down medium slash. It has a very far reach and it knocks down and slow, so you can't deflect it. It's pretty valuable. And a fun fact about Earthquake, any weapon attack that hits with the blunt side of his chain, it does not recoil on block, unlike the sickle part. And so those are kind of buttons you can use for space control, to check people from moving, a little lower risk overall. Your jabs are typically there for like a little quick interrupt, I should say light slashes. Interrupts, and it can also be punished starters. So like if you catch somebody on block and you're close enough, you can go into fat chainsaw. So basically light slash, light chainsaw, and light fat chainsaw, excuse me. So that's your punishment option because he doesn't have a lot of punishes. He's mostly trying to nickel and dime you in the neutral game. So those are kind of his buttons. Just general pokes and stuff. His kicks are pretty good too. His down forward kick goes quite far. It's pretty decent at whiff punishing, I believe. So yeah, you see how far that was? So, I mean, it doesn't solve all your problems, but it's still pretty handy if you're close. And even a standing heavy kick is pretty interesting in itself. You see it just kind of, it can kind of stuff some things, and it goes pretty far distance. You don't want to overly rely on it, but you just got to remember that you have stuff like that. As far as his anti-airs go, so again, once you start doing a lot of stuff like this, it's going to be people's natural instinct is to jump at you because you're putting out these long recovery normals, even though they have range. So people, instead of trying to, well, they're gonna try to get a read on you, and then try to jump over it and hit you with a jump button. So what's usually gonna happen is something like this. You think you're gonna running at you, and then you get hit. So to prevent that, you're typically gonna want to go into the air with jump medium punch, because one, it has long range. It's fairly quick for what it is. So sometimes you can just neutral jump just to check for jumps. Be careful about that though. But yeah, there's that, and then this is kind of more universal. Just jump jab. If I stop jumping too early. So that's the power of doing nothing, is that you can kind of see that. If you're too active with all your buttons and fall into that trap of earthquake, you won't be able to see stuff like that, and you'll get jumped in on a lot, or you'll start going back to this and giving up space because you don't get jumped in on. Kind of a more obscure anti-air would be the flame from further out. It's a little harder to do. It's more specific. It means that you know earthquake fairly well. Stuff like that. And there's another one that I come to be a fan of, not versus Galford because his jump-ins are good, but for some characters who don't have good jump-ins, running heavy slash is actually pretty good. And then if they do a late deep jump-in, it works for that too. But this is more, this one requires a bit more finesse, but it's definitely something you want to keep in your toolbox. So that's how you keep people out of the air. You obviously know how to keep people from just running at you. Another aspect of earthquake. So, oh yeah, also I forgot to mention, if you do jab, you can also cancel that into weapon flip technique. And so off a throw, regular throw, you get weapon flip technique. Make sure I got one hit guard on, so you can see the effects of this. Alright. And then you got standing heavy, which doesn't do much damage. Standing heavy does up to 1 to 3 hits, and there's a sweet spot for the 3 hits at so, but you only get 2 on a throw, typically. Oh, I accidentally turned off. Okay, so you typically get 2 on the throw, but it may vary on certain characters because they have different hitboxes. But typically, I think you get 2. So the higher damage option is actually the down heavy slash. And at least I'm standing right outside your down heavy slash range where there's 2 hits. So it leaves you in pretty good position, but there's another punish that if you don't have a weapon flip technique and you want to kind of get more momentum and you want to change your screen position, this is one a lot of people don't really think about, is a heavy fat tornado. You knock them down and you get corner positioning. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's how you defend the air. There's punish games, there's the throw combos. I kind of mentioned the pitfalls and strengths of your heavy buttons. I went over the kicks, what I think are kind of like the kind of undercover hero of Earthquake, really. His kicks are actually pretty good if you know the circumstances which to use them. So yeah, go up there and explore his toolkit. I guess a few more aspects. Again, if someone's throwing fireballs, there's a typical Sam Show approach of, just defend and get your meter. And I'll actually make a note of that later. And so you can just use your fireball to kind of hold your positioning without having to jump, or because sometimes with this you gotta kind of jump on prediction. Like I think he's about to throw a fireball, and that's good. Let's say you weren't ready, and by the time you do that, he's already recovered. So sometimes you just wanna, if you weren't ready, just throw the fireball out, maintain position. At the very least, you don't really lose much. There's also other aspects, like you can try to do that, and if you catch them early enough, again, like the jump, you can do that. And usually the fireballs are not going to be enough to discourage. The damage of fireballs are not going to match the heavies. But if they knock down, you give them an opportunity to move around and position around you. So another thing about being super active with Earthquake, again, he doesn't have a lot of options to safely chip you. So if they focus on just defend, I think I went over this on this video because I've done this video like 3 times because I messed up. But again, if they are focused heavily on trying to jump just defend you, and they don't want to get hit by all this nonsense and you're doing it all the time, look how fast that meter builds up. And so now if they hit you, they do more damage and they have access to weapon flip technique. So if you whiff this, for example, Alfred might just be able to weapon flip you from there, in fact. So keep that in mind. The finesse of Earthquake is knowing when to bully somebody with your buttons and knowing when to just chill out. knowing when to wait for the anti-air, and knowing when to just put that heavy on them because you know they lost their patience. So those are the things I can think of. Teleport. Keep in mind with teleport. Oops, wrong button. Is that this is super special move punishable, so you can lose about 80% of your life from doing this. But there is a use that I found for it personally, and that is if you see somebody jumping. So especially against a character like Yashimaru, but you can pin them down, especially if they're trying to like up back you in the corner or something, or up back away from you. You can do this little cheeky move because they can't beat the tracking if they're already in the air. So against Yashimaru, that's actually pretty good, I feel. So just some things to keep in mind. Again, there's other aspects of them. I didn't go over everything, but I feel like I hit the core points of Earthquake. So if you got any feedback about what I missed or something I got wrong, go ahead and toss it out there. But I hope this helps any aspiring Earthquakes later.